Hello, this is Mike at Gamefromscratch, and welcome to another in the ongoing Closer Look at Game Engine series. Today we are looking at the Bladecoder Adventure Game Engine. It's an open source, Java-based, built over top of LibGDX game engine specifically for making adventure games. So think the old school Scum style games from LucasArts or modern hidden pixel games that are out now. This is specifically designed to create them. So it's a game engine and game editor that's built over top of LibGDX. As a result, it's able to target and hit all the platforms that LibGDX supports, so various desktops, iOS, Android, etc. Now, this is a little bit different than a lot of the things I traditionally cover in the Closer Look At series for a couple of reasons. One, this is from a single developer. It's very much under active development, so if you use it, you may find things are a little bit rough at times. It might crash a bit on you, and there isn't a huge community around it, at least not yet. This is very much an in-development product, and you kind of are going to have to pay the price for that to a certain degree. On the other hand, it's actually remarkably polished. The tools are there, and very soon this could actually provide a game engine for someone with very little or no coding ability to be able to create adventure games. Now, as it stands now, if you have some Java ability, you can make this work because it is completely open source. It's under the Apache 2 game license. So if you run into a problem and jump in and able to fix the code yourself, you can. Or hopefully, as things go forward, a community forms around this. There will be forums, etc. that you can jump into and really make things get going. So just be aware of that right up front. This is an in-development engine without a ton of documentation or community around it, and it's very focused in what it's for. It is for creating adventure games. So if you're looking to create a first-person shooter, go away. If you're looking to create a 2D sprite-based shoot-'em-up, go away. But anything else should be perfect for you. So let's jump right in. Now, quick recap, if you've never seen a Closer Look At series, it's a combination of game preview, review, and getting started guide all at once. It's designed to give you, as fast as possible, a good overview of what an engine represents. So I spend a few days to a few weeks to a few months working with an engine and summarize what it's like so that you can evaluate it much, much quicker. I've done several of these, and for every one I ever do, there's a text and a video-based version, at least as of the last half dozen or so. So there's already the text-based version of this Closer Look At, published on Gamefromscratch.com. I will link it in the comments below. So if you want to, do a text version as opposed to a video version, there is definitely that option available. Now, they run the same content for the most part, so you should be good with whichever one you choose to go with. So again, without further ado, let's jump right in. And we're going to start from the very beginning. Now, to get started, you're going to have to grab the source code from Git. Don't worry, this is all very simple, but you're going to have a few things required to get going. First, you should have Git configured. You should have that anyways at this point in time. So many projects are hosted in Git repositories at this point that if you don't have Git up and going on your computer, you're probably doing it wrong at this point. The other thing you'll need is a Java VM. Now, the big Java development kit specifically. So you need the JDK, and in this particular case, the library depends on Java Effects, and that's not a big deal regardless to which version you use. But Java Effects is included in Java 8, whereas in 7 it's an add-on. So if you go with Java 7 or earlier, JDK 7 or earlier, you're going to have to reconfigure the build process. So if you want things to be as seamless as possible, use JDK 8. All right, so first things first, you head on over to the GitHub page. Here you can see here's the text-based version of what we're about to cover. So over here is the GitHub page for Bladecoder. This is basically the home page, everything all together. Just come on in and grab the repository right here, and then just open up command prompt, pick your directory, and then just do a git clone, and then that repository, like that. This will pull all the files down from, you know how GitHub works at this point. So we're basically copying the files down. It's not very big, so we should be, there we go. And the next step is build it. It uses Gradle, so gradlu, and then just build, oops. Oh, my bad. So changing the directory you just downloaded, and then gradlu build. Now this is going to take probably a minute or two, so there's no sense sitting here and watching my machine compile this. It doesn't take long, but it could potentially take, because it's downloading the dependencies, so it's going to kind of depend on how fast my internet's going. Yeah, you know what? This is coming in fast enough. I'll probably just let it run instead of pausing. So this is the build process. In theory, everything works. As of today, it is all working. This is a code that's under active development, though, so obviously there might be breaks some days. But as of right now, build's just fine. Up and running, so there you go. So now the last thing we need to do is gradlu run, and this will load up the editor. Now, before I continue here, though, I actually want to grab some example files to demonstrate this. We won't be doing anything from scratch. I'm just going to use existing demos. And this is actually your main source of help for working with Blade Engine. So you're going to probably want to grab them too. And it's another repository. He's got a work-in-progress game called The Goddess Robbery and a couple of other examples, all in a different repository. So we're going to open this up. Let's go back to the root of it and grab that URL. And go back a directory, and then just git clone that guy. So this is just an set of example projects we can go ahead and open. We're going to just be using one of them from inside of it for today's examples. Okay, so that is down. All right, so let's go back into our adventure thing. So to run your editor, it's just gradlu run. Okay, so here, welcome to the adventure editor. Now, if you think of Blade Engine as basically two parts. By the way, I'm hyphenating it down to Blade Engine. It's a lot easier to say. But Blade Engine is essentially two pieces. It's the underlying engine, which is Java-related code, and then the editor that runs over top of it. So if you go over to the GitHub repository for it, you'll see editor, engine. So they're two separate things. The editor runs on top of the engine. So if you need to customize the scope of what the engine does, you'll be doing it in the engine level. Otherwise, you'll work in the editor on top of it, which is what we just finished loading right now. You'll notice there's also a spine plugin. A spine is an animation system, a bone-based 2D animation system. So you can bring in spine animation files into Bladecoder or Blade Engine. So here is your initial screen. Now this is going to take a bit of time. It's got some dependencies to resolve, but let's go on back and grab the tests folder, and it's Venus is the goddess trap example. So go ahead and just select that and open it up. Now what Blade Engine does for you is it's ultimately configuring a LibGDX project behind the scenes, but it's shelling out and doing all this stuff for you. So if you add a texture atlas, it is generating it for you. So you bring in a bunch of independent sprites, it will build a sprite sheet for you. It's using LibGDX's tools behind the scenes, and it's creating a file hierarchy that is very LibGDX-esque in scope. For example, if you have an Android project and you've ever worked in LibGDX, you'll understand this. Your assets folder will be under your Android module. It's all set up the same way here. It's calling the tools for you and makes it mostly transparent. So you're really still using LibGDX-esque code, and this is using LibGDX behind the scenes. It's just taking care of it for you. So if you're a non-technical developer, this works just fine. So now here we are in the editor, and we're going to do a quick walkthrough of what the various pieces of the interface are. Left-hand side here, your control panel. This is where you load files, as we just saw, save and quit, play your file, package your file for various platforms, or Atlas. Atlas is a collection of images. Part of what I was just talking about, how you can bring in a bunch of different sprites and have LibGDX automatically generate a sprite sheet for you. Now, the composition of a Blade Engine project is going to be, you have chapters. Chapters are composed of scenes. Scenes are made up of actors, and actors have elements. The underlying functionality or the process of making stuff do stuff is something called verbs. So once you've got those metaphors down, you've basically got Blade Engine down. So you make your game out of chapters. Your chapters could be... you could have just one chapter in your game, potentially. And then you have your scenes. Your scenes are basically going to be, sets within your world. But it could also be, scene one might be, you know, an intro menu, scene 2, etc. So you split your stuff up into scenes, but you also have your chapters. So we've got one chapter here, and it's composed of these 5 scenes. And then we're going to load up one of the potential scenes here, scene 1. And here you can see Blade Engine kind of at action. So this middle guy here is your primary draw screen. This is a preview of what your camera is going to look like. And then here's the actors that compose the scene. Now on top of actors, you've also got layers, basically such as you can define your own, but your defaults are your foreground, your background in a dynamic layer. And this is how things get laid out in the world. So I can grab and move and change the properties of things over here. You can do things like define walk zones. These are the areas where you can walk. You can place entities. They've got hitboxes around them, and then we can control them over here. We'll get to that in a second. Now, on top of scenes and chapters, you've got game properties, which is basically your global settings for your games. Things like your resolution, the name of your game, etc. You've got assets that can be loaded in. Now, out of the box, it's supposed to have a surprisingly number of things. For example, you can bring your character model in as a 3D model in LibGDX format, and it will handle the lighting and the animation, etc. for you. So you can model your stuff in 3D and implement it as a 3D model. You can bring in atlases, which is a collection of images, and have it generate them for you if you use this button up here. We can bring in music files, image files, and spine, which I said earlier was a 2D animation system. So good support there, and that is essentially what the various things here are. And then what you can do here is automatically set up resolution sampling. And this will create 2 different sets of your assets at 2 different resolutions. The majority reason behind this is for supporting split-level devices like Retina and non-Retina iPads, for example. This will create a half-pixel density version and then a full pixel density version of your assets, for example. It'll do it for you automatically. So the resolution independence is very nicely implemented, very easily implemented this way. And you can add new ones, edit existing, etc. So this is how you compose your scene. You bring in your actors come from over here. These are the various things that go in your scene. For example, here's a chair. You click it, you see a broken chair here. We can instance it into the scene. We can add a new one going plus. Pick the actor type. So it can be an obstacle, a character, which is special, basically you, a background object, a sprite, or an anchor, which is sort of like a clickable region within the screen. For each one you pick, they get different editors and different settings available, but basically all of the stuff that you go to compose out of each individual scene is added this way. The interface works remarkably the same. You've always got add, edit, delete, copy, paste, and that one isn't always there, to be honest. So I see here, add, edit, delete, and if we come into assets here and pick, let's see, it should have some atlases defined. So you see, I can come in and go, I could add it, edit, delete, copy, same settings. Oops. So again, there you go. You are going to run into the occasional bug, the occasional crash, which we just experienced. That was part of what I was talking about right off the hop. You just kind of have to accept that as part of using this engine. To be honest, most of the crashes I've had have evolved around modifying existing assets. My understanding in talking with the coder behind this is a lot of his workflow, he works with the assets directly without using the importers. So it's probably an area that needs a bit of a layer of polish. So let's go and open that guy back up. All right. So here we are back, and you'll notice second time much faster to run, much faster to load levels because everything has been done. There's no compilation stage involved at this point. So there is our scene. So that's composing and creating your scene, your layers, your chapters, etc. And then over here is where you essentially define how your game is going to perform. So we'll actually start with the easy stuff and then work our way backwards. So right here we've got, so there's a character, our character. He was added to the scene. He's an actor of type character. We can come in here with him selected and go, and see there are the properties of that particular actor. So his position, visibility, etc. Here, let me just maximize that again. The description, string, etc. for that character. So each particular thing will have its own set of properties, as you can see. It's the simple stuff, mostly the world placement and what the thing is called. Next up, we've got, oops, I'm zooming. Let's go back to my scene. One sec. All right, so across the top here, so that was actor properties we just looked at. Here's where sounds can be brought into your game, your background music, etc. Nothing really magical there. Here's where animations can come into this into play. Animations are generally you'll use a sprite sheet for doing so. Let's select our character player. So here is the character itself, and he's got a set of animations. So you see. There's a special set defined, so like walk forward, walk back, it will automatically do the sprite flip for you. And you can see the preview of the animation in effect. So this is where you would define and edit. So we could click the editor, bring it in. Here are the particular properties for that animation, the speeds to play it at, etc. So cancel out of that. And then finally, verbs. And verbs are going to probably be the most confusing and the most potent part of this engine. Verbs are where you define the functionality of your game. You can think of verbs more like events. If you're a programmer, a verb is an event, and that will make a lot more sense. And then there are some default events or global level events that kind of like a pass-through. So if you've got a verb attached to your world, you've got these 4 defined events that get fired off irregardless of actually hitting something. So you've got a look at event that's firing globally if no other look at event was called. And you know when you're playing an adventure game, a lot of times it will say, I don't know how to use that, or there doesn't appear to be anything here, or anything along those lines. That was probably handled by a global event handler. Otherwise, you deal with your events at a smaller scope. So you see, these are the world events we're looking at here. We've also got scene events and actor events. So you can attach an event to your actor, your various different actors in the scene. I would have thought the player would have had some attached, but let me try to get there. So you see, here's our chair, has a set of events attached to it. So it handles the pickup, the look at. So it's overriding the global version here, for example. So you can see look at, and then a conditional, when inventory or when broken. So you can have chair in a broken state or a non-broken state. You've got the pickup verbs. So basically, these are the events that occur or the events that it responds to. And then we'll highlight a particular one. So this pickup event. So here, when sit is set to 1, this pickup event will fire. And what it does is this set of elements or actions. So when this event fires, the player will go to this location, look at the chair, play the sit down animation, play a sound of sitting down, wait for a second, say something, stand back up, change the state member variable so that they're no longer, so this conditional we used right here, basically you can see the state being changed. And states are a set of very important kind of conditional variables that you use throughout your game for various different objects, very different things, and end of animation. So this is, you can see how this sequence of elements were all tied to this verb. And then again, it works the same way at your scene level. For you can see, for example, when this scene, so this guy right here, when the initialization is called, or in other words, when the scene is presented, it will do this sequence of events as in the top-down order. Now you can change the event that things elapse at by moving it up and down this way. And we're looking at an example event. So here's a rope animation down. So we'll go here. Here's the rope selected, and I'll switch over. So you see right there, all of a sudden, there's the animation that's going to play. And we could go in and actually look at it. I don't know which one that actually is. Rope down. Oh, so that's him sliding. So here you can see the various animations attached. So that's rope fall is what's being played there. So going back to the verbs. So you see on the init, it's going to go ahead and play the rope down. And okay, I'm mixing things up. I switched things. But anyway, so you can see how it's just basically firing off a sequence of actions that you kind of build up. You build up your own sounds. You build up your your actors within the world. You attach what verbs they handle, and then on each verb you set the elements that correspond to it. Now you'll notice if I come into one of these elements, for example, this rope down element, and I hit the editor on it, it brings up a specific editor to that actual entity. Now if I go back out here, and let's say we're going to go ahead and add a new one, here are your options. So this is your programmability. This is how you create and script your game, essentially, is by defining these various actions. And here they are. Quite a few of them. You could no doubt, if you really needed to, extend it in the underlying engine and add your own. But, so if we wanted to play a music file, comes in, plays, We could come in and go move to scene. This will switch to a different scene. We could do an actor attribute. So we're going to set an attribute on that particular actor. We can set animations to play, etc. So it's this collection of elements over here is how your game does stuff. So it's just this relationship that you kind of got to get down. But the whole process is actually pretty smooth once you understand it. And really, that's kind of about it. Now, there's a whole lot more to this because there is the underlying code involved, but I'm not going to get into that. That's way beyond probably what most people will end up using this for, and beyond what I can actually cover in the time allotted. So you just be aware that right now the tools need a little bit more work, you know, to get a little bit of crashes away. There definitely needs to be a bit more documentation so non-programmers can get in here and figure things out. But this does provide non-programming interface to making some fairly complicated adventure style games. And for the more advanced people, you've got full source code to this editor. You've got full source code to the underlying engine. So that's pretty cool. Now at the same time though, let me just exit out of here. We're back to the home page again, and your documentation basically consists of that example we just saw and this wiki. And this wiki is light. So you're going to spend some time struggling and figuring things out on your own. Again, this is an in-development engine, and hopefully a community will form around it. Hopefully the developer behind it will put together some kind of a forum so such a community can form. But if you're on the market for an engine to make 2D adventure games, this one's a damn solid option. Even right now, with the bugs, with the weakness, there is a lot there. And a lot of this you would end up writing yourself. And it's done for you, and it's done in a very nice, polished way. The source code, from what I've seen, is quite clean. And again, it's all there. It's Apache license. It's completely free. There's no gotcha with an Apache license. It's not like GNU. There's no catch-22 of using it. This is basically free as in beer and free as in freedom. So if you're looking for an adventure game, to make an adventure game, or to contribute to a developing project, this is definitely one to consider. So this is and has been the Bladecoder Adventure Engine. Hope you enjoyed that. Once again, there is a text-based version of this. I will link it in the comments down below. See y'all later. Bye.